An industry that you might not think of as one being heavily impacted by the coronavirus pandemic is ethanol. Some factories have not been at full capacity, though, for months now. Joining us now to talk about what the summer holds for the ethanol producers in Iowa is Monte Shaw, head of the Renewable Fuel Industry Association. Monte, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
You know, probably the number one issue is fuel sales across the board are down because people are traveling less. Is that problem number one, or is there something else that is causing you guys difficulty?
No, I mean, that's basically it. You know, ethanol makes up about 10% of our national fuel supply and 10% of each gallon. But when people aren't staying home, when people are staying home and not driving, they're not burning gas. They're not burning the ethanol in that gas. So, you know, people are joking about my car now gets 7 weeks to the tank instead of however many miles per gallon. And I get that, but it's been very hard on our industry.
Yeah, not exactly what you all want to hear. And so to what degree has that affected ethanol production in Iowa? Where are we in production in terms of what we have the ability to produce?
Yeah, Iowa's the largest producing state in the country. We make about 30% of U.S. production at 4.5 billion gallons of ethanol. About 3 weeks ago, we estimated that roughly half of that was offline. Some of that was plants completely shut down. Some of that was plants running at 50% capacity. The good news is today we're estimating that about 25% of our production is offline. Now that's a big improvement from 2 or 3 weeks ago. But to put that in context, in the 20 years I've been doing this, we've never had 25% production down before. So it is still a very, very difficult time for our industry. And even for those that are producing, with the overhang of underutilized capacity, there's no profits. There's no ability to make money. And of course, this trickles down to the corn growers, because if we're not making ethanol, we're not grinding corn. So it's just a real domino effect that's very negative for all of rural Iowa.
And then lay on top of that the issue of the RFS, the Renewable Fuel Standard, and the enforcement thereof, which, you know, most people who watch news saw stories in the months leading up to this of sort of, I guess, what I would call uneven enforcement of that coming out of Washington, D.C. Is that still an issue for you?
It has been an issue, and it continues to be an issue. You know, one of the hardest things about trying to deal with the response to COVID and it shutting down, the demand side, was we were coming into that situation in a very weak financial position, given the fact that we've been fighting against the Trump administration's waivers to the renewable fuel standard for 2 years. So for 2 years, we've kind of seen our markets undermined domestically, and then all of a sudden you throw this on top of it. Now, of course, the oil companies are asking for additional waivers because of COVID. They're asking for exemptions that a recent 10th Circuit Court decision said they shouldn't get. They're going back and trying to ask for even more of those. The Trump administration has testified, their officials have testified that they're considering those. So we don't know what's going to happen. But right now would be the worst time to further erode demand for U.S. produced biofuels.
So very quickly, we just got a little bit of time left, Monte. Is there any way for you to look in your crystal ball and see what you think the Iowa ethanol producing industry might look like after we come out of this period?
A lot of that might depend on Congress. Right now, I am fearful that with this much of the industry shut down for so long, we could see some bankruptcies. We could see some of these locally owned plants that are owned by Iowans go on the market, be bought out by somebody else. And that would be bad for Iowa long term. We have asked Congress, like other industries, we're not the only one affected by this, but when you shut down transportation, these companies are hurting, not because they made a bad business decision. That's part of being in business. They're hurting because the government shut down their demand through mandated stay-at-home orders and things like that. So we are asking for some financial assistance so these plants can ride this out. Demand is coming back. But we've still got probably several months, hopefully not too many, but probably several months before demand will be back, and they're going to need some financial assistance to get through this. Or I do fear that, the industry, which has primarily been locally owned, may not look the same way, 2, 4, 6 months from now.
Well, all of Iowa is pulling for you. Monte Shaw, with the head of the Renewable Fuel Industry Association. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.